What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Mic Check Podcast. This is T Word, the People's Champ. Here, my co-host Q. You're now entering the booth. We're about to drop these bars on y'all boys' head. Today, we're going to talk about the potential of Terence Crawford, welterweight champion of the WBO, potentially signing with Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy Promotions. So, Q, I'm going to go ahead and throw it to you, and you go ahead and kick us off, brother.
Yeah, well, if anybody's been watching, and if anybody was following this weekend, they saw that Alexis Rocha did have a fight. Currently, he's the NABO champion. That is a secondary title of the WBO, the North American WBO belt, essentially, right? And if you're able to watch or look at any of the WBO rankings, like I have been able to recently, it's kind of really put Crawford in a situation I think that's going to be difficult for him to really find a strong solution that's satisfactory for a lot of fans. I'm sitting here looking at the rankings now. Virgil Ortiz has already agreed he's going to fight Amonte Stanionis for the secondary WBA title. Keith Thurman is already rumored that he's going to probably end up fighting Errol Spence at some point in April or May. And then the next guy on that list at the WBO rankings right now is Alexis Rocha with the NABO belt. So no surprises from me that he was an option. What I was a little bit more surprised is that like this may be something that's more long-term. No definitive answers have been given as well as Crawford specifying whether that's going to be a long-term partnership. But it's going to be interesting to see how people respond to it, because I think a lot of people thought that when Crawford was trying to fight Spence as an individual negotiator on his own with Al Heyman, a lot of people criticized the way that he went about things, the fact that he doesn't have a lot of experience with negotiating deals, and that he needed better representation that could kind of help him navigate the situation a little better than he did. I'll give people that. I guess my question is that if he's going to go ahead and sign with Golden Boy, is there any possibility that what will happen is an Alexis Rocha fight as a warm-up to keep Crawford busy while Spence is going to fight Thurman? And then if Golden Boy wants to be the negotiator for Crawford to get a Spence fight to happen later this year. I know everybody assumes that the fight that's going to happen if he signs with Golden Boy is Virgil Ortiz. But what happens if they tell Virgil, we're going to let you have a shot at undisputed if Crawford comes back with all of these belts? If not, Spence will vacate after becoming undisputed, and then you'll become WBA champion from there. So I wanted to get your thoughts on what you think of those two options and what you think is most likely, bro.
So from the path that Oscar, I want to reflect on that. The path that Oscar laid out on the broadcast was Rocha, Ortiz, and then we could look at Spence. Mm-hmm. As I stated in the previous video, that kills undisputed for Spence anyway at 147. Now, based on the way that you've laid it out, and I hadn't truly considered that perspective, is specifically with this favor in Virgil, because if I'm Oscar and I've already invested all this time and money in Virgil, if I can protect him, I don't like to use that because they're fighters. But let's say I'm protecting him and setting him up for
saving
success.
him. How about that? How about we say saving him?
Okay, saving. I'm trying to set him up for success, right? So yeah, I'm gonna say, hey Virgil, sit in the background. I'm gonna keep your name in the mix, probably get you on those cards, but I'm gonna get Rocha in there with Bud first. I'm gonna get Bud in the ring with Errol. If Bud wins the titles, I'm gonna give you a shot at undisputed. If Bud doesn't win the titles, Errol's gone anyway. Now you get to be elevated to WBA champ, and now you can start to work your way into fighting whoever else, whether it's Boots or whoever, because he'll get the interim belt. Now we can start to stage these big fights with the young dogs that are left. And it's also beneficial to Rocha to lay down as a sacrificial lamb, because he's already in the WBO rankings. He can start to work his way back up in the background as those fights play out. So based on the way that you laid it out, something I hadn't thought about, that actually will make sense if you do it that way. And Virgil is in a prime position to become the next big name at 147 alongside Jaron Ennis. And Terence Crawford can do whatever he wants after 3 fights or something else, So I do like the way that you laid that out.
No doubt. No doubt, man. And I think one of the things that kind of came to my mind when I was thinking about this is like, well, let's say that Crawford loses to Spence, right? Let's say that he loses. Let's say that fight happens in the late part of this coming year. Are we really going to sit here and say that people won't ask for a Virgil versus Spence fight here in Dallas? I mean, I know that Spence is having a hard time making 147 or staying around the weight, which is why he's probably having this fight at 154 now. But realistically, we're talking about a fight between two guys that grew up 15 minutes away from each other. There's actually an awesome photo, if you've ever seen it. There's an awesome photo of Spence when he was about 16, Virgil when he was about 9, training at the same gym in Dallas. And to have that whole circle come right back around would be that's an easy fight to make, because you would already have established a relationship with the Crawford fight. Now, me personally, everybody knows that they've been watching our show. I think that Crawford is going to beat Spence. I think that that's a fight that favors him. I think that he wins that fight. And if he does, well, guess what? That's an easy fight to make as well. You make Virgil against Crawford. You do that fight here in Dallas as well. That could be Virgil's first stadium fight, whether it's Spence or Crawford. You could put him at AT&T Stadium against either one of those guys, and that's going to be a great matchup. I think that the way that Oscar lined it up does mess it up a little bit. I think that, in my opinion, while we wouldn't be getting the number one fight that we asked for, if Spence drops the belts, right, and Virgil gets elevated, and the Crawford fight can't happen until after after Crawford has already fought Virgil and moves up to 54, I think what you'll probably end up seeing is Crawford with the WBO belt fighting Virgil with the WBA, and then potentially you could see whoever the winner of that is targeting a fight with, like you said, Jaron Ennis before moving up. Because I don't think that Crawford's in a rush to move to 154, because he's not a guy that's hurting to make that weight. He's not necessarily a big guy from a build standpoint.
Just a natural build,
He's moved up from 135. He makes the weight well. I have never really seen him have a hard time with weight in between fights. So I think that he could definitely stand to stay at 147 the remaining part of 2023, and then potentially look to have the fight everybody's asking for, just maybe not for undisputed at 154.
If I could comment on that. So here's what I think. Let me throw something else at you. Let's say, like, I favor Spence in the Crawford fight, right? So we split hairs there, and that's fine. We both have our reasons. That being said, let's say Crawford was to win, because either of them guys can win, in my opinion. It's very 50-50 to me.
That's a 51-49 fight.
Yeah, you could call it that way, whoever you favor, right? But let's say Crawford wins that fight. There's a potential that dude could drop them belts and retire too. What else does he have to prove? 2-time undisputed, first man to do it. He got nothing else to prove, and he's 36, almost 37 years old. Now, if he drops the belt, that drops another bomb in 47, because now it's like, dude, I've already done that. Y'all could get elevated and do what y'all want to do. And then he declined to fight Virgil. That does still leave Virgil versus Spence at some type of catch weight, just because it's a big money fight. Another thing I want to reply to that you said, let's say Spence was to win or whatever, and then you've got Virgil out there. I like the potential of that, but I think that they're not going to fight at 47. I just don't see it. I think they'll do like some type of catchweight agreement. Same thing if Crawford was to let's say Errol drops the belts and moves on to 54. I think that they will fight at a catchweight too. They're not going to officially fight at 54, no matter what happens. I don't see like 49, 50. Like, they're going to split some hair somewhere, because that's a 7-pound difference. They're going to meet in the middle. That's what I think happens. I still want to see them two dudes fight. I just kind of think that Crawford is capped at 47 as his best weight class. I think that's his cap. I don't want to see him at a disadvantage. I don't want to see Spence at a disadvantage. I wouldn't be mad if they fight at a catch weight, because I've given up on undisputed anyway for them two dudes.
Yeah, it's a tough call, man, because realistically, the best and most opportune time for this fight to have happened, in my opinion, probably would have been back last year at the latest, right? Because when you think about it, people have been talking about the Spence Crawford fight since late 2018, early 2019. All of 2019, the fight didn't happen. PBC didn't make Crawford an offer once his contract was up with Top Rank, probably because they knew that Top Rank was willing to pay Crawford premium dollars, $6 million guarantees per fight, something that none of their own fighters even get for the most part, other than maybe their major ticket sellers. So it's kind of a tough, because passing in the night, but they're kind of passing at different times, right? They never are meeting up right at the same spot at the right time. Now that, Crawford is getting a little bit up there in age, he's 35, he'll be 36 this year. And then you got Spence, who, he's having a little bit of a harder time staying at 147. which is why he's giving his body a break probably to fight at 154. But I think it's going to be really interesting how the next couple of months play out with the Golden Boy kind of rumored signing, because if he's willing to sign with Golden Boy, that could be good for the negotiations, because in all honesty, I think they just don't want to deal with him directly, talking about Al Heyman and PBC anymore. I think they tried that last year, and for whatever reason, they didn't like how things went. They didn't like how Crawford handled it or how his lawyers handled it. Whatever it was. I wasn't in those rooms, so I can't speak to what happened.
We really don't know.
But all I can say is that it didn't go well. It didn't work out. Yeah. So I think that him having a known, respectable company representing him, I think would do wonders for that deal. And I think realistically, if they're able to do that, here's the thing: Golden Boy has a lot.
He was experiencing some weather stuff. We are both in Texas. Let me jump in. I'll wait for him to come back. But I think what he's getting at is that Golden Boy does have a lot of welterweights that they could book some fights for Crawford and honestly give him some really good opportunities to stay active if he wants to stay active as a fighter at 147 and continue to defend his belt until an opportunity to gather some more titles at that division come up. The biggest thing that I think we all want to look at is if Golden Boy is able to get the Garcia Davis fight booked with PBC, that looks really good on paper for Terence Crawford to be able to get a fight with Errol Spence if he does sign with Golden Boy. And this makes everything that Oscar was lining out sound even better and more appealing to boxing fans. And at this point, we actually need that. We really do. I just think that the sport is at a place where we need the biggest names to fight each other in order to see the sport carry on and then just kind of continue from there. But we're going to go ahead and close it right there. We do thank you for checking in on this video and watching. I'm sorry we lost Q there. We will get back to you guys, probably get a live coming up soon. We're in Texas experiencing weather conditions, but we want to get this content out in the interim. This has been the Mic Check Podcast. I'm T Word, exiting the booth. Until the next time, peace.